glad that the English department of Mizoram University have invited me to give my opinion regarding various questions concerning the identity of the Mizos and their politics, which I'm very glad to share. I'm beginning with certain questions like what does the term Mizo identity mean to you? That means what do I understand by the Mizo identity? Let me begin with a story in my experience. While I was a student in JNU, that was in the early 80s of the 20th century, my Mizo friend and I were riding in a bus, and we were talking in a very excited manner, and the gentleman sitting just in front of us looked back and asked us, "Where do you come from? What language do you speak? Is your language a Chinese language?" he asked. But so we were amazed to hear such kind of questions. People, our fellow Indians, thinking whether we were Chinese or not. Then we asked him back, "What do you think we are? Where do you think we are from?" Then he made some guesses, but very wild guesses. The fact that I wanted to point out is that he didn't understand at all that we were Mizos. That is one thing. This tells how great and how vast is our country, India, where different nations, I would say different nationalities and different racial groups, different cultural, linguistic groups are living together. So we were also students there in Delhi, and we have been very familiar with life in Delhi, but people were not familiar with us. That was quite surprising in one way, but not too surprising, because we could understand that for people in Delhi, Mizos are not too well known. We didn't take that as something which was to be disliked or which was to be taken in a different way, but we took it as a sign that India is such a vast country, such a great nation, that different groups of people are living together. Now, so what is my opinion about Mizo identity? Okay. Identity, for that matter, is a combination of our first identity is our physical features, and in physical features, we, the Mongolian tribes people, are so different from the rest of India, I would say. People who are of the Aryan stock, people who are the Dravidian stock, we are quite different. Those of us, particularly those of us who are in Northeast India, we are looking so different in our feature. That's why some youngsters, they tease themselves, those who gather together, who study together in educational institutions. Some of our young girls have been teased by their fellow Indians, chinky face, chinky eyes, things like that. So that is not surprising, because our physical features are different. And another thing is our language is so different. It's a tonal language, and it's, yes, for our fellow bus passenger, it sounded like a Chinese language, but it's so different. It's so different. So it's like that. So physical feature is the first immediate visible identity that we have. So from our physical feature, we are having a particular feature, and that depicts our identity, first of all, and language, and also other things. If we examine more widely, more closely, our culture, our lifestyle, and our food habits, and all these are not very similar to other groups in India. That's why all these things put together constitute our Mizo identity. And one thing I'd like to point out is the Mizo people are saying most of the time that one cultural trait we have, one cultural trait, characteristic that we have, we feel that this trait distinguishes us from the rest of the people. That is, in our culture we have a concept which is very difficult to translate. That is tlom ngai na. Tlom ngai na is very difficult to translate in English or in any other language. It is about bravery. It is about self-sacrifice. It is about willingness to help others at the cost of your comfort, even at the cost of your life. This cultural trait is very strongly present in our culture. This is one area or one aspect of our Mizo cultural identity. So Mizos are supposed to demonstrate this culture anywhere they are. For instance, we have the practice of young men, village young men digging the grave. When somebody dies, the grave is to be dug by the young men voluntarily. So voluntarily, and nobody has to be asked to do it, but when somebody dies, they come together to the graveyard and start digging the grave, and every young man is supposed to be participating in that. So this is a result of what we call tlom ngai na. Like that, when somebody needs help, so when some family, for instance, in some family they are very helpless and they aren't able to cultivate their own jum, their paddy field, and when that happens, the village folks, the village community will come together and help them out in clearing their jum area of weeds. So such things are there. So this cultural trait is very strong, and this is one of the marks of our Mizo identity. There can be many other points, but I think we cannot dwell on that aspect too long. There are certain other questions which I would like to take up. That is, what do I think are the factors at work in the formation of identity? Okay, the factors that work in the formation of the Mizo identity are, first, our traditional system of administration. We love to live together in a village, and in most cases at the hilltop, because we don't want to live in the low-lying areas, and we live at the hilltop. That was mainly because in the distant past, we used to fight. One tribal group used to fight with another tribal group, and because of that, it was safer and more secure to live at the top of the hills. So almost all the villages used to be located at hilltops, and we used to have chiefs, and every chief ruled over a village, and there may be some chiefs who ruled over a number of villages, putting their representatives in the sub-villages, so to say. When we were living like that, our chiefs used to teach us, used to lead us, used to teach us social norms, and all those social norms that we inherited become very strong factors for our Mizo identity. Elderly people will come together and they will set certain norms for the society, and these norms are like respect for the elderly, respect for those who are older than you, and helping out people who are in need. Things like that were taught to us by our chief and the elders. And we used to have the young men used to sleep together in a Aizawl book, that is young men's dormitory, and they used to be together and they slept together. Even a newly married person was supposed to continue to sleep in the Aizawl book. So these were there. So from this time past, we have been inheriting certain social norms, cultural norms. These are very strong factors for our Mizo, for the formation of our Mizo identity. And besides that, as time went on, as modern democratic system came in, and even then we still practice many of our cultural traits which we inherited from our forefathers. These are factors for the formation of Mizo identity. And another factor which I'd like to point out is our isolation. Culturally and socially and even politically, we were isolated for quite a long time. Even when the British came, they ruled over us, they subjugated our chiefs, and they ruled over us. Even when they set up administrative system, they didn't have any economic interest, they didn't have any commercial interest, because there was no much production of consumer goods. Our lifestyle was based on agriculture. The system of juming, which is called slash and burn method, for every year we go to a particular area of land and cultivate paddy, and this used to happen. So economy was just what in Marxist term it could be like primitive communism. The land was allotted to different families by the chief and his elders according to lottery, and so they happily cultivated land, and land was very fertile. But as time went on, when party system, democratic political system came, then we began, the modernization process began. But before that, when the British ruled over us, they put us in a category called excluded area, which means that we were excluded from the rule of the Assam provincial legislature. Means we didn't have any representative in the Assam legislature. Even when democracy came, after democracy came, our chiefs were stopped from ruling, and they were dispossessed, so to say. Their ownership of the land and everything, their right to rule was stopped, and political party Mizo Union came into existence, and that ushered us into democratic system of administration. And so even before that, in the British time, we were put under Assam, the Lusai Hills. Now, okay, Mizos used to be known as Lusais. The Lusai Hills was put under Assam government, but we were directly administered by the governor of Assam. So we didn't have any part in the Assam legislature. That's why we were called excluded area. We were directly administered by the governor. But when democracy came, when political party came into existence, then we began to elect our representatives, and they represented us in the Assam legislature. So the concept of excluded area came to an end, and we were made part of the Assam province. At the time it was not even called state, it was province, some provincial legislature. And then later we got union territory and full statehood gradually. So now what I'm trying to say is that the administrative experiences that we had in some way secluded us, isolated us from the rest of India, for that matter, from the rest of Assam even. So we didn't have much interaction with the rest of India. That's why we were living a very independent life, and that also is another factor for the formation of Mizo identity. We were cohesive, our community was very cohesive, very solid. There is a strong solidarity among us, and we didn't need much of interaction with other parts of the world. So that's how we lived, and this made a condition for us to have an independent attitude, that no other people should rule over us. We can rule ourselves, and we are self-sufficient. So long we were self-sufficient, we cultivated our dreams, and then we were satisfied. More than this monetary value was not too much, was not too high, and commercialism had not invaded us. That's why we lived in a very solid community. That's why we became very independent in our attitude. I think these are some of the more important factors that help in the formation of our Mizo identity. And another question that has been raised to me is, what do I think about the common term for the Mizos? Now we say Mizo, Mizo. What does it exactly mean? Mizo is, some people translate it literally, saying that Mi means man and Zo means highland, so the Mizo means Highlander. This has been commonly publicized. This has been generally publicized even in the information folders and leaflets and brochures that have been published even by the Mizoram government. But technically speaking, that may not be the only way of translating Mizo. Some of my friends who have done historical research into our origin, they think that we are common with people in Burma who are known as Chins, and people known in Manipur as Kukis. And here on this side, the British writers, the British people who wrote about us, they called us Lushai or Lusei or Lushai, whatever. So people of the same stock, people of the same community, society, were known in different names in different places by the people who they came in contact with. For instance, in Burma side, our people were known as Chins, and in Manipur side, our people were known as Kukis, and here in the present Mizoram, we were known as Lusais. Now, when some of our former leaders, political leaders, cultural leaders, they thought that there should be a common nomenclature to represent our common identity. All these people, Chins, Kukis, and Lushais. So they adopted the term Mizo to include all those groups. So they adopted Mizo. So we became Mizos. Lushai Hills was changed into Mizo Hills, Mizo district. And that's what they thought. Then everybody would accept being a Mizo and the Mizo identity. People, the Paide tribes, the Mar tribes, and the Maras who used to be known as Lakers, and the Pois, the Lai people who used to be known as Pois, and the Chin people in Burma, all this, when they adopted Mizo as a term, they adopted it as a common name for all these groups. But as political development took place, and when Lushai Hills, the erstwhile Lushai Hills, became Mizo district, and the Mizo district became the Union Territory of Mizoram and the state of Mizoram. Gradually, there had been a kind of, a sense of separateness from those who are in Mizoram, who are called Mizos, and the Mizo tribes who are in Manipur, and the Mizo tribes who are in Burma. They became more and more alienated. They became more and more alienated. So there is a tendency for them to feel that they are not part of the Mizo tribe, and they are trying to find some other identity forms like that. So Mizo, which was supposed to be the common nomenclature for all of us, turns out to be an identity of those who are in Mizoram only. That's why these days there is a search for a common identity for all the tribes which I have mentioned, tribes in Burma, Manipur, Bangladesh and Mizoram, who are akin to Mizo tribes. There is a search, and some people they use the term Zofa. Zofa means children of Zo, and now Zohnahthlak. Zohnahthlak, it's a little complicated term, but Nahthlak literally, so far as I understand, literally means Nahthlak means descendants. So descendants of Zo. Now that's why let me go back to what I already said, what I already mentioned, that some of our Mizo historians, those who do research in history, even in JNU while I was there, some of our classmates, some of our seniors who were doing research in Mizo tribes, they were of a very strong opinion that all these terms, Chins, Kukis and Lushais, were names that were not adopted by ourselves, but they were names that were given to us by the people who we came in contact with. That's why we have to find a more basic and a more fundamental and a more more scientific term for all of us as a common name. So they say that when they trace the past, the developments in the past, we all believe that we come from the East, we migrated from the East, and in the course of our migration, some of our people stayed back in Burma, some of our people stayed, continued to live in Manipur, and some in Bangladesh. They came up to Bangladesh. Some of us stopped here. So according to those friends of mine who have done research in Mizo history, they believe that in the distant past we had some common ancestor whose name could possibly be Zo, because the layman has written about the Chins, and there also he has mentioned some variations of Zo term, like S-E-U Seo or C-H-O Cho, C-H-O-U Chow, and things like that, which sounds like almost like Chinese language. Now, so they are of a very strong opinion that Zo could be the common ancestor for all of these tribes. So it's Zo. We were descendants of Zo. That's what they said. So whether we call ourselves Mizo or Lushai or Chin or Kuki, we all belong to the same parenthood, that is Zo. So Zo could be our name. Some people call themselves Zomi, so they think that Zomi will be the appropriate term. Zomi means the men of Zo. So some people want to use that, but that is also not free from disputations. So now we are still in search of a common nomenclature to include all those tribal groups. Zohnahthlak could be good, but so far as I'm concerned, it's a little complicated, because especially the spelling and the pronunciation might be very strange to our fellow Indians. So why don't we just say Zofa? Zofa means children of Zo, or something like that. I don't know. That's my personal opinion. So I think that we should have a blanket term to include all those tribes which I have mentioned. We should have, because we are common. We have a cultural affinity, and even our languages, our dialects are only variants of same language. For instance, if a Mar person speaks in Mar language, in Mar dialect, I would say, I can understand more than 50% of it. So there, if a linguist studies all our dialects, then he or she will find out that they're all very closely related, perhaps having common origin. So, whereas we are the same culturally, we are the same in terms of language, and we are the same in traditions. Our traditions are very similar. If we can find out a common blanket term for all of us that can include all of us, that would be very nice. That's what I feel. And another question that has been put to me is, why did Mizos fight for independence? That's a very big question. And what triggered their sense of nationalism? Yes, Mizo National Famine Front, which is presently running the state government. As we know the history of Mizo politics, the MNF was a party which started the movement of Mizo independence. They declared Mizoram independence. Mizoram simply means the land of the Mizos. So they declared independence, and they ran a parallel underground government, and that's how it has been. And we were for 20 years under a disturbed condition because of the MNF independence movement, Mizo independence movement. And now, yes, it is a question which is very necessary to ask. Why? Why is it that? Now, there is one thing, one notion which I want to correct here. One idea that has been very much prevalent among our fellow Indians elsewhere is that Mizos wanted to become independent country because they are Christians. I have done a little bit of research in my doctoral thesis whether religion was the main factor for Mizo independence movement. But I found out that it is only one of the many factors. It is not the factor. Now, so I contend with the idea that I argue against the idea that Mizo's independence movement came only because of their religion, that they are Christians. Of course, the MNA was saying something that we are a Christian nation, so in India we don't have any part, and we are not part of India, we cannot be part of India, we should be separate, we should be independent. They said something like that, but that is only to capture the sentiment of the religious sentiment of the people. So the Mizo, I have asked in my questionnaire, I have asked, do you feel that being a Mizo Christian and being an Indian are incompatible. And majority of my respondents say that they are not incompatible. They are compatible because they know very well that there are Christian groups even in Kerala, in Nagaland, in Meghalaya. So Christianity, religion is not the main factor of Mizo independence movement. I have more or less found out that there are so many factors contributing together. That is, the most important thing is tradition and culture. Tradition and culture. We had the feeling when the independence movement was, why it became very popular among the people of Mizoram, why it became very strong and very popular, because the people felt that sentimentally they felt that our tradition and our culture could be in danger. Our lifestyle could be in danger if we are part of a bigger culture. So our culture could be destroyed anytime, could be assimilated anytime. So we could be nowhere. We can land in a situation where our culture is nowhere and we don't have any identity. So tradition and culture are the main things, main factor in so far as my research findings are concerned. And next thing is identity. I have already said our identity is going to be erased. We will not be able to have any identity anymore, because we, the Mizo people, we have learned it from the experiences of people around us. For instance, people in Tripura, the natives of Tripura, they were in the majority, but within a few decades they become a minority in their own land. And we have also seen that in just next door in the north of Mizoram is Kachar. Now we know that Kachari people used to have very mighty kingdom, but the Kachari people are the most timid and the most backward groups in Assam now. Where were they? Where are they? So we learn from our neighbors that if we are not taking care of our identity, there would be a time when our identity is assimilated and erased and done away with. So identity is a second factor. And religion, of course, it is a factor. We are Christians and we want to maintain our Christian tradition. We want to worship freely. Nobody should take our right to worship our newfound religion, because there are so many things we can say about Christianity in Mizoram, because within 40 years or so, all the Mizo people became Christians. We were animists in the beginning. We were animists, and we believed in a God, in a good God, supreme God. But most of our times, in our forefathers' times, most of our times were spent for sacrificing, trying to appease the evil spirits who we believe harmed our bodies. So that was our religious life. But when the good news of Jesus Christ saving people by His death and His life and His resurrection, that was very appealing to us. And when our missionaries began to preach that Jesus Christ is more powerful than all evil spirits, then that was very attractive to us. So within no time, within less than half a century, all the Mizos became Christians. So Christianity has become our common religion, and it has been established as the Mizo religion. That's why there is a fear that our religious identity may be destroyed if we mix with people of other religious groups. Other things like psychosocial factors and economic factors, geography are also there. Geographically we are isolated. Economically we were so much deprived. And there are so many things we can say about the economy of the Mizos in those days, because there used to be famine, and because of some natural phenomenon like the flowering of the bamboo, which is called Mautam, and as a result there used to be famine. Our leaders, Mizo leaders, knew this very well beforehand, and they used to warn the government of Assam to take preventive measures, but the Assam government was very reluctant to take preventive measures, and the so-called scientific research that was done within 1 or 2 days was meaningless, and they didn't pay heed to our leaders' voice that we need to take preventive measures. So we were very much alienated by the callous attitude of the Assam government, and that's why Assam government means government of India. So there was a general dislike for the government of Assam, because we had the opinion that they were not really caring for us. They were not really caring for our economy. Economic development practically didn't have any stride, didn't make any stride, didn't make any development in the Assam time, the time of Assam rule on us. That was there. And another thing is language. Language is another factor for Mizo nationalism. That's it. That is, the Assamese language bill was passed in 1960, where when they wanted to make Assamese the official language. So, you know, we Mizo people, since as I said, we are a very solid community, cohesive community, and we don't love to speak much in other languages. So that was a blow to our feelings. And then, okay, if we continue to be in Assam, then Assamese is going to be imposed on us. We don't like that. That's why even the central government should be aware, even now, Hindi is very popular. We have been learning Hindi and we want to learn it, but when it is imposed on us, then we will be repulsive. It will be repulsive. It should not be imposed, but people, even the government of India should wait that those Hindi lovers also should not be too anxious. We are going to learn it. We have learned it. Many of our young people, they can speak in Hindi very well. They can communicate in Hindi very well. But if this language is imposed on us, then it will be different. And we have got that in our history, because there was a time during the Janata government rule, there was a time when there was a suggestion that Hindi should be made compulsory in the UPSC exam. And what happened? All of the northeastern states, we protested it. We protested it, and our students protested it. Our student bodies protested it. I remember that was the time when Sanjeeva Reddy, respected president, was in the seat of the presidency of India. And I heard that when he went back from Mizoram, when he came to Mizoram, he visited Mizoram, and the students groups, they boycotted the imposition of Hindi language for UPSC exam. And he was interviewed by our student leaders, and our student leaders made it very strong point that they could not accept the imposition of Hindi on us. So, and I heard that when he went back, he addressed his public speech in his own mother tongue, Telugu, and that was a big surprise to the crowd. Anyway, so language, economy, religion, psychosocial factors, and identity and tradition and culture are the factors that contribute together for Mizo people, particularly the MNF, to assert our independence. So independence movement came into existence. And identity politics. Identity politics is very much there, particularly in Northeast India. Not only in Northeast India, even in other parts of India, not only in India, but in other parts of the world. particular groups, communities, they want to have their identities asserted. They want to express their identity. They want to prevent, to protect, to safeguard their identity as nations. That is very true. We don't have to grope too much to find out all this. We can see, for instance, you can see in the example of the breaking of USSR, which was Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. Different nationalities, they were together just because of the power of the Communist Party, because of the control of the strong Communist Party. But as you see, when the 20th century was going to close, all these USSR nationalities, they broke up, and now we have got different nations having been born. And if you look at Europe also, if you look at Spain, the Basque movement is still there, and different regions. And very recently, even the Scottish people, the people of Scotland, they were voting for independence from the United Kingdom. And almost they got majority. They almost got majority, those who favored Scotland independence from UK. Things like that, what I'm trying to say is that this is a real thing. This is a fact that identity politics is very much there. According to one writer, Nirmal Nibedan, who wrote Mizoram Dagar Brigade, he said the politics in Northeast India was an ethnic explosion. Ethnic explosion. So politics in North India. Now, whether it is Meghalaya or Nagaland or Assam, even Assam itself now, Tripura, all these Sikkim, northeastern states, we all have our identity politics. We don't want our identities, our peculiar identities, our particular identities to be erased or to be, wiped out by the onslaught of majority culture. So this is identity politics. We want to safeguard our identities for all purposes. Then I come to the question of what constitutes Mizo regionalism. That's more or less set. Whether it is sub-nationalism or in academic terms, it can be also called nationalism, or in the context of Indian Union, we have to say it is regionalism, because we love our region. Everybody loves his neighborhood. So we love our land, we love our Mizoram, and because of all the factors that I have said, we love it and we want it to flourish. We want it that it should develop economically, and if possible, there is a dream deep inside every Mizo that all the Mizo tribes together should be together under one administration. Could be under India, and that is a distant dream which we all have. And if we cannot be together under one system of administration or under one government, we want to relate with one another. We want to have the freedom of interacting with one another, with our kin tribes in Burma, Myanmar, in our kin tribes in Bangladesh and in other states, Manipur, Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland. We want to have a free interaction with them. That's why anything that obstructs such kind of dream will be, it will have a problem. It will have a problem. And now, another thing I'd like to mention is we have been very much integrated to Indian Union. We have been very much integrated to Indian Union now. Even political union is there, political integration is there, but this has to be followed by emotional integration. Now we have been, after 20 years of being under disturbed condition, we have been, when peace settlement came, we have been learning how to identify ourselves with the rest of India, and we are integrating ourselves with the rest of India. So I would warn any any political movement uh, that should that should um, retard, or that should cause this to, to go backward. Now we are coming forward, we are going forward in identifying ourselves in the rest of India. But any mistake in handling the regionalist sentiment of the Mizo people will be detrimental, even for the whole of India. That is what we should know. That is what I very clearly point out in my doctoral thesis also. And religion is a factor that promotes unity among people of the same religion, people who who follow the same religion. But when you communalize religion, it can be very dangerous. We should avoid communalizing religion, because religion is universal. Anybody can belong to any religion. That's what our Constitution of India also enshrines in our fundamental rights. Article 25, freedom of religion and all that we have. And Article 30, minority rights. Whether we are in minority or in majority, we can follow any particular religion that we like, according to our choice. But when you communalize religion, or when you try to interpret a particular religion as the religion of India, that is where the danger is, that is where the harm is. Christianity is an Indian religion, Islam is an Indian religion, Hinduism is an Indian religion, Jainism is an Indian religion, Sikhism is an Indian religion, Buddhism is an Indian religion. Why should we discriminate upon certain religions as though they are foreign to India? No, not at all. We remember Pandit Nehru saying that Christianity in India is as old as Christianity itself. That is very true. One of the disciples of Jesus, Saint Thomas, was believed to have come to India and started Christianity in Kerala. So, just because we are Christians, we should not be discriminated upon. And we should not, nobody should think that we are less Indian than any other religious groups. We are 100% Indians. I am a Mizo in India, so I am an Indian. So a Mizo in Myanmar is a Mizo Myanmarese. A Mizo in Bangladesh is a Mizo and Bangladeshi. A Mizo in India is a Mizo Indian. So I don't have to be compelled to be a Hindu. I don't have to be compelled to be a Muslim to be in Pakistan or in Bangladesh. Everybody should be free to worship any particular religion. So religion, I think the government of India and all those forces, religious forces, the fanatic, fundamental religious forces even in India should understand that religion has played a great role in pacifying Mizo people from being wild hill tribes. The British people called us savages, wild hill tribes, headhunters. But when Christianity came, we have been tamed, I would say. We have been tamed, we have been educated, we have been modernized, and we have come to, certain level of civilization because of our Christianity. So government of India should be thankful about that. And our fellow other majority religious groups should be thankful about that. So they should not try to cause an enmity between Christian groups and other religious groups. They should not do that. They should avoid all this by all means. That is very important. So if you try to impose any particular religious value on us other than Christianity, then that will be destructive. That will be destructive of our identity. At the same time, that will be destructive of the unity that we have in India, the unity in diversity. India cannot be uniform. Indian culture cannot be uniform culture. There cannot be a monoculture basis of unity in India. It should be multicultural, and it should be diversity our unity should be based on our diversity. Diversity is beautiful. We go here, we go there, and when we cross the state boundary, we become illiterate. We cannot read their languages, but we still feel like we are one. I have got a lot of experience. I have had a lot of experiences going abroad, elsewhere in other countries. Whenever I meet a fellow Indian, I feel like one. We feel like brothers and sisters. So that is. Let us not destroy the beauty of this emotional unity that is in the making. That is to be in full bloom, and there may come a time when we all feel that we are very much one with one another. This is what we are looking forward to. But those who want to impose certain particular values, certain particular ideology based on religion, it should be very that is against India, I would say. It is not against Mizo, it is not against Nagas, it is not against Meghalaya, it is against India. So imposition of any particular religious ideology, true politics, is very, very harmful, very destructive.